Hello friends, welcome to this third session. Today we are going to discuss about what is an indicator for development. But before we proceed on this subject, let us have a quick recap of what we discussed in the last session. As you remember, we discussed about how important are universal human values to development, and especially we focused on one universal human values, and that is the principle of the oneness of mankind, and how important it is to ensure that the benefits of development reaches the masses of humanity. Now, before we talk about the indicators of development, let's have a reflection on 2 points, 2 questions. One is that in the absence of clear indicators for development, it is not possible to assess if development is happening. So we need indicators. That's the first point to think about. And secondly, why are spiritual principles important for holistic development? So, an indicator is a measure that can be used periodically to monitor the quality and quantity of development. Indicators are grouped together and referred together as indexes. For example, health profile index or education index and several other indexes. Now, since progress is the result of several factors, it cannot be measured by a single indicator at a single point of time. It's a continuous process. Indicators do not change the reality, but help us to have a common understanding of development. For example, they tell us where we lag or what goals should be given priority. These indicators help progress to happen. Now, in today's world, dear friends, various organizations and agencies try to measure progress in terms of concepts such as human capital, social capital, cultural, then social integration, and suppose community well-being. So we have here now 2 questions to try to answer. They're actually quizzes. The first quiz is asking you to search the internet to find out the meaning of human capital and then select the right answer. There's a second quiz which says search the internet to find out the meaning of social capital. And then you select the right answers. Fortunately, the United Nations system has broadened the scope of development indicators. For example, the top-down approach that was prevalent earlier, and mostly its focus was on economic and technical development, has changed to the process in which people and communities define what progress means to them, and they take responsibility for it. Now, this is very important, so there's a shift from a top-down indicators, top-down approach, when the people sitting up there decide what is good for you at the grassroots. Now here, the local people, they decide what development means to them. So, in the UN document, there are cultural indicators, including individual and social well-being, and the ability of people to live together. There's still a long way to go, of course, to identify all the tangible and also intangible categories of indicators. Some of them are easily discernible, some of them are not so easily discernible. For example, spirituality-based indicators for development is one such category which is to be sort of defined and to be translated into some tangible measures. So they are not yet fully constructed, but still the work is going on, we can say. So in simple terms, we can see that these indicators measure development progress as a result of applying certain spiritual and universal principles. That's why we say spiritually, spiritual principles that indicate development. So those principles that foster individual and collective progress. So the question is that why these spiritual principles are important? It's because they resonate with the human inner spiritual reality. As we discussed in the first module, our reality is not just physical, but there is an inner spiritual reality, and these indicators resonate with that. And they provide a greater motivational power to man to sacrifice and to change. It's going better with man's nature. Hence, the people welcome the development policies and programs that are based on these principles more than those programs that are based only on material understanding and material aspects of life. Therefore, using these measures, the spiritual indicators, would help to transform both the vision of development, so the vision goes beyond only material well-being, all right? It changes the vision of development when these indicators be considered, and also the actual practice of development. So it opens a very, we can say, new chapter, new understanding of development. That now when we look at some of these principles, spiritual principles, moral principles that should be the basis of spiritual indicators, you see that really development becomes a very different thing. For example, one principle is the principle of unity in diversity. Now, when you look at this, then development is possible when people are united. A community is considered as developed when there is unity, not a community, not a country, not a society where there are fights, for example, racial fights, for example, or other sorts of disunity. So, you see, development definition becomes different. Or for example, you say equality and justice. Now, a community is developed, then a society is developed where there is equality and justice. So it is not only a question of how much is the average income of the people, but is there equality? Do everybody benefit from the equality, from the benefits of development equally? Is there justice? Does everybody get what he or she actually deserves? Or the third principle for spiritual indicators is equality of sexes. Again, that's a big challenge in many societies. So can we say society is developed when still there is discrimination based on the gender? Of course not. A fourth principle is trustworthiness and moral leadership. Is there integrity? Can you consider a society where corruption is so much prevalent? However, the economic development may look like to be sound if there is corruption, for example. If there is a moral decline, for example. Can we say it is really a developed society? Is it where you like to live? Of course not. Or another principle is independent investigation of truth, which is having both moral as well as practical application. And we discussed this point, if you remember, in the last module. So I invite you to not only, if possible, go over what we discussed earlier, but also go through the study material which is provided here to get more insights into the details of these 5 principles. Thank you.